Huge guest this week on the Triple Option from downtown Manhattan, the commissioner of the National Football League. Roger Goodell joins us right now. Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
For the commish.
Good to be with you guys. Thanks,
Commissioner,
Mark.
good to be with you again. It's been a minute. And by the way, my son, Nate, who you invited on the field after the Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl, you were holding his hand, walking him on the field. He's now married, and he had a child a week ago. How about that?
Oh, my goodness. Congratulations.
They grow up so fast.
Congratulations to all of you. Wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
Well, something that connected us years ago, Roger, was our love for the game and then also for life after the game. I remember probably 15 years ago or 12 years ago, I came to see you, and you were good enough to come speak to our team about, fiscal responsibility, about leadership, about life after the game. And now NIL has popped up. And do you think that's a positive for preparing at least, the sting of, that first paycheck when they get in, the kind of, not understanding the value of money? Do you think it's really helped, or I guess it's to be determined if it will help players as they get to the NFL?
Listen, it brings on a lot of responsibility at an earlier age. And I think it probably puts a lot of responsibility on colleges to make sure that kids understand that and they're prepared for that. So it changes the dynamic. I listen. It's deserved. So I understand that aspect of it, but the zeros get pretty big, and the impact when you make bad decisions is pretty significant for a young man and their family. So they need to be prepared for that. And I think the more we can help and support from colleges to make sure that our transition programs could be applied potentially to them would probably be a good thing. Because it's a big jump to college football, from college football to the NFL. This probably does reduce that a little bit because it's one less adjustment,
right?
But it's still a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
Mark could tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. You go from making $0 to making a lot of dollars. The financial literacy is key. So
yes,
no,
I agree with that.
Mr. Commish, player safety is always on the top of the list for you, for everyone at the league. It's something I admire. I appreciate you guys and the constant pursuit of taking care of the players. And especially in the sport as physical as ours, obviously Tua with his concussion, it's been a huge discussion this past week. But the most recent study by the National Federation of State High Schools has over 1 million students participating in high school football. That's the highest number since 2017, 2018. Players, we see them wearing Guardians in training camp, some even in the games now, we're seeing it. How do you feel the league has addressed the safety concerns for the sport as a whole? And what can I do to further progress, the positive look, for parents and children for the youth of our game?
Mark, I think we have to do our thing. And the way we approach that is we look at the data. People are talking about the hip drop, which is extended into college football and impacted college football a lot last year. When you see the kinds of injuries that occur there, they may not be a lot, but they're devastating.
They are.
You need to get them out of the game. Kickoffs is another one. We're modifying our kickoff. It'll be a transition. It'll be a period of time. We'll have to make changes to it, undoubtedly, as time goes on. But as we get data, so we're really focusing on the data. Where are the injuries occurring? What are the techniques that cause those injuries? How do you study those? And then how do you use that in looking at our rules every year? I think we're over 60 rule changes in the last 15 years that have been designed specifically for safety and have made the game safer, taken those techniques out. So I believe our game is safer. We also look at it how we're training our athletes. It's not the same training camp that you played in.
Right.
The off seasons are different. I think we have 11 practices that you're allowed to have with pads during the season. I would say most teams don't even get to that anymore. Right. So we're learning to train and our players differently. Coaches are adjusting. I think the real trick for us is to share that with every level of football and, frankly, every level of sports. When we develop new helmets, it ought to be available to every level of sports. When we develop new rules, we want to share that. When we look at data that shows how we can address through rules, we share that with every level. And, NCAA reps come to our competition committees every year, and we share that data. We give them every bit of information we have. It's up to them to make those rule changes if they feel it's appropriate. But, so to me, it's a shared responsibility for the good of the game.
You talk about the helmets. Do you forecast a day where those Guardian caps are basically mandatory in the NFL?
There's a lot of data that shows that a Guardian cap with a what we would call a lower quality helmet is still about as good as wearing the best helmet. So a lot of our players, I think we have 360 players wearing the newer helmets this year, and what we're trying to do is invest in the quality of those helmets. We actually invested in some that are now some of the best helmets. And when I say invest, not that we're holding any equity in it, but that we put seed money towards investing in better helmets. And I think that's showing a lot of promise. So I think the best helmets can be as good as helmets that they might be more comfortable in, that they've worn for many years. But, if they're going to wear the Guardian, that's okay with us if they feel better about it. I don't know if that'll end up being the helmet of choice, if you want to put it that way. I think
that thing is ugly. That thing's ugly, commish. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, Mark, that was the first reaction from a lot of guys, and our point to them was, this is safer for you based on the quality helmets we had then, and it's been about a 20% reduction in concussions, and that's a positive change for us. And that's just concussions. The micro hits, the micro concussions, those are the things that we want to take out of the game. And so all of that, I think, has been a contributing factor. But I believe we're going to have helmets for each position. We already have it for quarterbacks and linemen. And there are different types of hits that every position takes.
Right.
And you want to have helmets that are built to be able to handle those types of impacts. And so that's where I see the change.
Yeah.
I was with you a couple of times at NFL draft, and it's amazing the couple of fan bases boo you. I felt like you in Ann Arbor last week when the fans are getting me pretty good.
He couldn't even work last week, commish. So he's trying to get some words out. They booing him.
Oh, I know. Man. I felt for you, Coach.
As they say, if your rivals are cheering for you, you must not have a very good record against your rivals. That's what Steve Spurrier say.
If they welcomed you in, you'd be in trouble. Yeah.
So the NBA, the hockey, it's Gene Smith and I, the former AD at Ohio State, at one point we had a little conversation. Do you see? I mean, if someone says we know what the college football landscape will look like in 5, 6, 10 years, they probably don't. There's even conversation about breaking away and maybe having a minor league where they don't have to go to class. I can't. It's hard for me to fathom that. Do you have a forecast of the way the relationship between the NFL and college football will continue to grow?
I certainly don't have a forecast on what the landscape is going to be, Coach, but I will tell you this. We're going to be supportive of every level of football. We believe that's one of our roles as the NFL. We've had an unbelievable relationship with college football. As you know, our primary relationship really with the conferences. In football. That may not be the case in basketball, where it's probably more directly, I think the NCAA controls the Final Four tournament. But from our standpoint, we believe we should be there to support college football as best we can. We work hard in our scheduling to avoid conflicts. That's a little bit of an issue now with the expanded playoffs. We have one day when we're going to be playing against each other. That's not something we look for, and we look to try to find ways to avoid that. It won't be easy to always do that, but our view of strong college football is good for the overall game of football, and so we'll be supportive of that and try to do everything we can to be consistent with that.
Commissioner, you mentioned that overlap. That's the second day of the first round of the college football playoffs, December 21st. 3 college football playoff games on a Saturday that is, quote unquote, traditionally a college football day, right? But I know you guys.
No, that's traditionally. I take that on. It's traditionally an NFL day. College football is usually done by the second week.
Correct, and you guys have an NFL doubleheader, essentially going up against those 3 college football games. So you mentioned that's in your sight. How did you and college football try to work around or try to navigate so it's the best for football as a whole on that day?
Well, it came because they expanded the college football playoffs, which is
Right.
certainly their right. And we've been scheduled the last several years on playing on that date. We looked at, can we modify the times? Could they modify the time? Can they play on Friday night? They play on Thursday night. Those are all things that, we explored. We just couldn't get around the entire conflict. So, but I think at some point when we all have a little more time to plan, maybe there'll be ways we could do that.
Yeah. Roger, now this is a lighter question. Don't take any. This is just a lighter hearted question. Okay, I'm gonna come with you. You want to see what I got for you? Okay,
Watch out, Commissioner.
My
Watch out.
Hoodats are balling this year. They off to a hot start. Spanked up on the Cowboys last weekend. Now the narrative around Houdat Nation is that the NFL does not like the Saints. That Roger hates the Saints. So I'm giving you a chance to clear the air. I know that's not the case with you, Roger. You're a good man. A stand-up man. Hey, I'm giving you a chance to clear the air. Do you hate the Saints?
Oh, my
Absolutely not. You know what? Everyone always asks me my favorite team, and I said any one of them. I love them all, and so we want them all. And so I'm always rooting for the team behind. But I think it's great to see the Saints come out of the box the way they're playing. It's I nobody ever expected it, and they've had the first 2 wins have been dominant, and so I can't wait to be down there for a game this season. It'll be fun. So.
There you go, Houdat Nation. You heard it from the man himself, man. He supports us. He loves the Saints. He loves the Houdat Nation. So welcome him in NOLA. Give him the NOLA love when he comes down, please.
I'm going to take you with me, Mark.
I got your back.
Man.
I got your
Yeah,
back.
they might boo you a little bit. Hey, one of the things we also talked about over the years was it drove me nuts when a player went that was not ready for the NFL. And agents or the third uncle that we talked about earlier in the show would get a hold of this kid and he'd leave and he would survive a year or two and then, have to go back and get his degree. The NIL has changed that, I think. A lot of kids are staying now. And have you, obviously it's still fairly early, have you felt that a little bit in the NFL where not as many are leaving early?
Yeah, I mean, we were getting to the point where our eligibility rules, I think, are really important. We've defended them in court. We believe in it, and it goes to the point we believe in a strong college football system, and we also believe that players are better prepared for the NFL when they do have not just the additional experience in college football, but really exposure to the educational system, which is even more important to get that degree. Or even if you don't get the degree, hopefully to get close enough where you can go back and get it. And a lot of our players do that. I think what the numbers showed, Coach, when you got at the end of your junior year and an option of whether you wanted to apply into the NFL draft, we were getting up about 110, just roughly, that would choose to do that. Since NIL, it's dropped back down into the high 70s. And I think that's a good thing for us because that's indicating kids are staying. They're not making that choice. They're going to say, I'm going to go back and play college football another year. We think that's always great. We'll support that every day. So I'm really proud of our eligibility rules and proud of the fact we want our kids to stay in college football as long as they can and frankly, in the college system.
Commissioner, you mentioned you mainly talk with the conferences on the college football level. Where are some places that you would like to see that bond strengthened, whether it's through communication or scheduling or whatever it is, where the two gigantic sporting forces in this nation can come together to make the sport even stronger?
I think, again, I think our job is to try to make sure every level of the sport is healthy. And so sharing of information, sharing of data on injury, sharing information of how we can grow our sport and let more kids participate in it is always a good thing. We're spending an awful lot of time on development of flag football. And I don't think that takes kids away from tackle. In fact, the numbers are showing, as Mark mentioned before, the number of kids playing high school football is at an all-time high. We want kids playing at any level. We want them having different entry points. If they want to start with flag football, we have a lot of NFL players today who started playing flag football.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunity for
I have 3 that play NFL flag, by the way, commish. So shout out to the NFL
I'm glad you're putting the numbers up, Big Mark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm helping. I'm trying to help promote the game too. You know what I
But I think the ability for young women to play our game is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The impact it has on them. The same thing that we would all say about playing the game of football. Now young women are getting the opportunity to say that, and it's the confidence, it's the ability to play a team sport and understand the values of that. I just think though, if we can do that, that's good for kids.
Yes.
And so, to go back to your question, really on that one, Rob, I would say anything we can do to help grow the game, and that's making it safer, getting more kids interested in it, and being able to play the game that we all love and learn the values of it.
Yeah. Commish, we talked about the safety, and I know we implemented the new kickoff rule. If I'm in kindergarten, can you explain to the people out there, like they're in kindergarten,
Here we go.
the new kickoff rule and how that will in turn result in more returns, but also in safety for the players?
So it already has led to more returns. It probably not as many as we expected, but we always thought we were going to have to toggle things, like are the kicking team and the receiving team 5 yards apart or 10 yards apart?
Mm-hmm.
Does the ball, if it's down in the end zone or out of the end zone, should it come out to the 30 or the 35? Right now it's the 30. I think if you move that to 35, you get a tremendous increase in the number of returns. Because teams kicking off would say, I think I can stop them from getting to the 35.
Right.
So I think that's a big change that will probably be considered at some point in the future. But the big thing was to sort of see, we've gone from 22% of our kickoffs returned to last weekend, it was about 34. The reality is that's towards the end of the season, that'll be hundreds of additional returns. Good for the game, good for the fans. Our start drive is going from about the 24 to the 29. So it's about a 5-yard difference. So that's great for offense and scoring. So it's had the impact we thought it would have. What we want to do is make sure the injury data. So we're trying, what we've done, Mark, and I'm probably way over the kindergartner head now, so I apologize. But what we look at is the injury rate from a line of scrimmage play. And the kickoff was multiples over that.
Wow.
Because of the speed and the impact.
Yeah.
So that's really what it was. This new kickoff has taken that speed and impact out because you're 10 yards apart from each other to start.
Okay.
So that's a big change.
Roger, the last few years, and when we used to put those chips on their jerseys, to how fast they run, and I did not put 2 and 2 together until a lot of data started coming out, because we would always try to kick that thing on the 1 yard line and just try to smother the guy. After I saw people running 22 miles an hour, hitting things coming at them another 20, that's when I said enough. We started kicking the ball out of the end zone, and I'm glad. I admire that you guys took the, like you said, you'll probably adapt it, change it, but there's no other play in any sport like that where someone's running 22. Think about that, Mark, 22 miles an hour. Some kids run 21 miles an hour, and then they hit something coming at them. When
I was back there
returning
for the kickoff. I was back there blocking for the returner, so I know. I had to kick out the number 2 guy, and he's flying.
And it was violent, man.
Yes, it is.
Mark hit me at 5 miles an hour.
I think we've seen that reduction of impact and the impact it's had on all injuries, not just concussions. And so I think we're on to something here.
I do too.
Again, it'll be adapted, but and I do think, Mark, we brought back the big play. We're already well above our numbers on number of kickoffs beyond 30 yards. We had a kickoff return in the first weekend. I don't think we had them last weekend, but the bottom line on it is, that crease is so you get that crease and you're gone.
Right.
And so I think teams are learning how to play with this. It'll be adjustment from a coaching and a playing level as well as officiating. But I think it's all in a good way.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Now, I'm watching a football game with my wife last night. She's asking me, what is the green box? I don't know how to explain it to her because I'm not even in the league no more. I usually would get that, that information. What is that green box? So I could explain to my wife. Please help me.
I'm laughing because people think the yellow line for the first down is actually on the field.
Right.
That's all digitally inserted.
How does it keep moving?
Exactly. The networks have had done that just to show that's the kickoff, that's the zone. So the kickers have to kick it between the goal line and the 20-yard line.
Mm.
And if you don't get it in that zone and it goes out of the end zone, it's going to
touchback.
30.
Yeah.
And it goes to 30. If you get in that zone, it's to the 20.
Commissioner, just to pivot back to college football real quick, is there a rivalry game? Is there a stadium out there that you haven't hit that you'd like to take part in?
Yeah, well, Coach was good enough to have me out at Ohio State, so I checked that one off. Unfortunately, I went one time to the team to the north in Michigan, and that was fun. I've been to an LSU game, which was a lot of fun. I have not been to Bama yet, and I'd like to do that.
We got to get you down there. Hey, hit me up, commish. You need to go to Bama. I got you taken care of.
You'll take me?
Hey, I'm going to roll out the red carpet for you.
I'd like to do that. And I've been to USC out at the Coliseum several times when they were playing there. So there's still a lot of schools I'd like to go to besides Bama. I haven't been to a Florida game. So Coach didn't invite me when he was down there. So.
Of course,
that was the time to go. It's not the time to go now.
You're welcome to join us any week on Big Noon Kickoff. We'd love to have you on a Saturday. I know your weekends are busy, and we know your weeks are extremely packed as well.
That'd be fun.
Love to have you, Commissioner.
I enjoy college football. I'm watching all day long. I promise you, whether I'm there or not, I'm watching.
We assumed you would.
We
It's
got
a beautiful
Big Noon
sport.
fan. We appreciate it.
So good to see you, Roger.
Thanks,
Commissioner.
Coach.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate you.